Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. It's kind of a gloomy, rainy day out today, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because it means that spring is finally here. In case you couldn't tell by my floral shirt, I am very excited for spring. I'm also currently drinking some tea from this super cute mushroom mug. I was actually gifted this by a company called Wonderwise, and they make a bunch of nature apparel, and they've started coming out with some really cute mugs and compostable phone cases, which we love to see. And like, look at the little shrooms, they're so cute. This is in no way sponsored at all, but if you want to get your own little mushroom mug or check out any of the other stuff they have, I'm gonna leave a link for them down in the description. Oh, that's still very hot. I feel like with the combination of this mug and this shirt, it kind of tells you guys what the theme of today's video is going to be. And that's going to be about all the plants and mushrooms I want to try to find this year. Basically, I'm making this video to like manifest it and like just put it out there in the universe and hope that I'm able to find all the things I list in this video. Since the beginning of the pandemic started, I've just been diving into all sorts of plants and mushroom identification material. And last year I was able to find a few things. However, I never actually harvested anything that I could really eat just because I still didn't trust myself. But this year I kind of have some like more clear ideas of what I want to find because these are species of plants and mushrooms that I know are easily identifiable and don't have too many lookalikes that could potentially kill me. I just want to do a brief disclaimer that I am by no means a foraging expert, and if there's anything I say in this video that is incorrect, please feel free to comment down below. And I also want to say, just as a general foraging sense, if you are planning to go harvest certain plants or mushrooms or basically anything in the wild, make sure that the area you are harvesting from is an area that you are allowed to harvest from. And just make sure you're harvesting in sustainable ways because obviously we don't want to deplete an area of its resources. So without further ado, here is what I want to find this year. So we're going to start off with flowers. The first one I want to find is the common blue violet. These guys pop up quite early in the spring and they're most commonly found on lawns or just general grassy areas. I actually did find a bunch of common blue violets in a local park last year, and I used them to make this cool color changing syrup, which I learned to do from Alexis Nicole, who is like one of my all-time favorite creators. Alexis, if you're watching this, I love you. Basically what I did was I picked the flowers, let them dry out, then I steeped them in some hot water and added some sugar, and in the end I had this violet simple syrup. And upon adding it to an acidic drink such as lemonade, it changed colors. And it kind of gave the lemonade this florally kind of grape flavor to it. I only have a few flowers left from what I harvested last year, so I'm hoping I can find another big cluster and then I can enjoy cool color changing drinks all spring and summer long. The next flower I want to find are grape hyacinths. These guys are also one of the first things that generally pop up in people's gardens and lawns when spring starts. Now, despite their name, they aren't actually related to hyacinths. But unlike hyacinths, the flowers on the grape hyacinths unlike hyacinths, the flowers on grape hyacinths are actually edible. But just make sure you only work with the flowers because the bulbs can give you an upset stomach unless you really cook them down to break down the saponins. The flowers can be used in the same way you can use the violets to make a color-changing simple syrup. The main thing I'm curious to see is if there is a difference in taste compared to the violets. I haven't really seen these guys growing in parks. I've mainly just seen them growing in people's gardens and their front lawns. So I might have to knock on their doors and be like, hey, can I take some of these from your garden? The final flowers I want to find are lilacs. I want to try making a lilac simple syrup as well as lilac infused honey. My dad actually has a lilac tree on his property, so hopefully he doesn't mind me stopping by and just like taking a few off of it. This next category is called roots and shoots, and it's because I want to find these plants because of their leaves and also what's going on underneath the soil. First up, we have ramps, which I feel like is a foraging staple and everyone just goes crazy for them in the spring. There's a lot of debate on how to properly harvest ramps, and I personally don't feel qualified to speak on that, but I do just want to say that if I do find any ramps, I'm only going to be harvesting the leaves because I like to make pesto out of them. Speaking of pesto, I also want to make some with garlic mustard. This plant is crazy invasive in North America, so it's really not that hard to find. And if you do find it, rip that shit out of the ground. I also want to find some Jerusalem artichokes. I actually did find these last summer purely by chance. I was visiting my dad last summer and I was out for a walk when I saw this huge cluster of sunflower-esque looking flowers on the side of the road. And upon further research, I discovered that they were Jerusalem artichokes and that you can harvest them for their tubers. I've heard people say the tubers kind of taste like a mix of a potato and an artichoke heart, so I'm very curious to see what that's going to be like. The tubers aren't ready for harvest until the first frost occurs and the plant starts dying back, so I'm probably gonna have to wait until November-ish to actually try these guys. But I think it was just cool that it was like a happy accident that I discovered this like abundance of potential food source things. And lastly in this category, I want to harvest some dandelions, both the roots and the leaves. I just kind of want to see what the deal with dandelion root tea is all about. I'm currently drinking an Earl Grey tea, but I also really like fruity herbal teas, so I feel like I need to mentally prepare myself that it's gonna taste different than the types of teas that I'm used to drinking, but I want to give it a shot. And I figured since I'm pulling the entire plant out of the ground to use the roots, I might as well use the entire plant and try some of the greens. I've seen them in grocery stores, but it's something that I haven't really thought to try, but like I said, might as well use up the whole plant. The next category is berries. To be honest, I'm down to find any kind of berry that I can eat. Mulberries, blueberries, red raspberries, black raspberries, I want all the berries. But the berries I think I'm most curious to find are juniper berries. I got the inspiration for juniper berries from this book called The Forager's Dinner. It is focused on the east coast of Canada, specifically Newfoundland and Labrador, but there are quite a few plants in this book that are also found in Ontario, and that includes juniper berries. I believe I might have to go a little further north if I want to find wild juniper berries, because I don't think you can eat the ones that people have as bushes in their gardens. Now, juniper berries should only be consumed in small amounts because certain varieties contain thujone. Thujone? Is that how you say it? And a lot of this in large quantities can make you quite sick. And to be honest, most people don't eat the berries outright because they are quite bitter. So instead, they'll usually add them to drinks, with gin being a very common one. You can also use them in rubs and pickling spices. One thing I think would be really cool to make is juniper berry infused sea salt. This is commonly used for flavoring meats like wild game or lamb, but I personally don't eat those. But I've also read that it goes really well in stews and for seasoning peppers, so I think I might try that option. And now onto the final and most exciting category, mushrooms. First on my list are morels. Much like ramps, this is a springtime foraging staple that people just go nuts for. So I just kind of want to see what the hype is all about. I've never tried morel mushrooms, and obviously I've never found them in the wild before. I'm gonna be on the hunt for the American yellow or northern yellow morel. I'm gonna potentially see if I can find black morels, but according to my foraging Facebook groups, it seems like in southern Ontario, a lot more people find American yellow or northern yellow morels. But to be honest, I'm happy to find any kind of morel. Unless it's the false morel, then I don't want that. The next mushroom I want to find is the dried saddle, also known as the pheasant back mushroom. I just think they look super cool, and I've been told they taste really good when you batter them and fry them like a tempura, and I love me some tempura. I actually did find a bunch of these last year, but they were unfortunately too old for me to harvest, and I also did find them in a conservation area, and I don't know, just something about taking those from a conservation area feels like it defeats the whole point of conservation. Next, I want to find chicken of the woods, because look at this mushroom. It is so gorgeous and vibrant and very easy to identify. As the name would suggest, people tend to use this as a chicken substitute, and I would be very curious to try some chicken of the woods tenders. I also want to find some Lactarius indigo, also known as the indigo milk cap. Much like Chicken of the Woods, I want to find this mushroom because it is just absolutely gorgeous. And when you cut into it, it bleeds this like blue milky substance, which I just think is so cool. And part of me wants to see if I can try and like make an ink or paint with it. Basically, it's just a really pretty mushroom and it is edible, so I can eat it, but I mainly just want to cut into it and see that blue milk seep out of it. I think the next mushroom I want to find is actually on this mug. Oh yeah, shaggy manes. I actually did find these on my dad's property a couple of years ago, but him and my stepmom have since done some landscaping in the area that I found them, so they are no longer to be found. So I guess that means I'm on the hunt to find a new spot to find some shaggy manes. I was so sad when I went back this past fall and I was like, well, maybe there'll be some there, but no, it's just rocks. I would also love to find a giant puffball mushroom. I just can't get over how ridiculously big these guys can get. A lot of people say the mushroom itself doesn't really taste like much, it's quite bland. I've seen people, you know, cube it up like some tofu or make a pizza crust out of it, which I think would be pretty cool to try. But I mainly just want to find it because it is just a big ass mushroom. I actually had a dream recently that I found a giant puffball mushroom, and I was real sad when I woke up. And lastly, this one is a very far stretch. I don't think I'm gonna find it this year, but I do want to find it at some point in my life, and that is a lobster mushroom. I know these guys can be quite hard to find, which is why they're often so expensive at the grocery store, but like pretty much all the other mushrooms I've listed, I want to see what they taste like because they apparently have kind of a fishy lobster smell and taste to them, which I guess makes sense given its name and also the color. The really cool thing about lobster mushrooms is that they technically aren't mushrooms. I'm gonna refer to my book for this one. The species is a mold-like parasite that selectively attacks certain mushrooms, rapidly transforming them into red lobster mushrooms. And that's what they look like. In a previous video I did about all the mushrooms that I had found, there was one species that I thought was a Lactarius mushroom, and someone left a comment saying that it could potentially be in the Lactarius family, and there might have been the possibility that it would have eventually turned into a lobster mushroom, which would have been so cool if I was visiting that area maybe like a week later, and maybe I could have stumbled upon a lobster mushroom. So that's all for today's video. I hope you guys are as excited for the spring and foraging season as I am. If you're into foraging and you have any particular things that you'd like to look for, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I'm thinking I will try to take you guys on some foraging adventures this year, but sometimes foraging can be kind of a hit or miss because, you know, it's nature and nature does what nature wants to do. But hopefully I will be able to find some cool things and share that with you guys. And I guess just wish me luck. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye!